I pray the Lord my soul to take, that we won't lose faith and we won't lose faith. All we got is us, no one can take that away. So don't lose faith, it's gonna be okay. I pray the Lord my soul to take.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Just Listen to Yourself with Kira Davis. This is the podcast where we take hot topics, hot button issues, and we discuss the talking points on those issues, and we draw those talking points all the way out to their logical conclusion. I am in the heat of graduation season. I've got two graduates. Two. I have my son who's graduating college in Chicago from DePaul University. And let me take these glasses off here. And I have my daughter, Ruby, who is graduating from high school here in Orange County. And man, I cannot wait for this part to be. I'm not excited about an empty nest. It's not really going to be an empty nest because the boy's going to come back to regroup, I guess. But I'm really anxious to be done with public school forever. I'm done. If any more kids come along that I have to raise or take care of for whatever reason, I plan on homeschooling, or hopefully I'll be in a position to do private school if it ever comes down to that. I'm never going back to public school, and I'm glad to be free of it. There are almost 3 weeks left in school, and they are doing nothing. Exams are over. It's movies in class, and if the kids don't show up, then they get docked. There's a possibility that you can't participate in graduation ceremonies if you have too many absences. So they're doing nothing. They're learning nothing. It's just a complete waste of time, and it just hits home. It just drives home for me, like what a complete and utter disaster the public education system has been. Furthermore, I think this is apropos for what we're talking about today, which is that I think everything needs to be dismantled. I think we're in the beginnings of that. And I want to talk about this idea of breaking down of what we have come to accept in American society over the last 4 to 15 years. Particularly, though, as it relates to Joe Biden and the Biden crime syndicate, as others so lovingly call it. And frankly, that's what it is. That's what it is. So today, I'm recording this the day after we learned about Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis. I want to take the time right now at the top of the show to point out my friend Jennifer Van Laar, managing editor at Red State. All right, Jennifer Van Laar reported over about a year ago, I think it was in July of 24. It was before the election, that Joe Biden, that Air Force One had to make an emergency detour for unspecified medical emergency. Now, she did some digging like she does, and she found the records that Red State found, the sheriff's report from Vegas, and she dug in a little more to some of her sources, and she never published a full report on this because at the time she just didn't have the inroads and there were other things going on. You don't want to publish anything, that's going to be trouble or that isn't true. They're not the mainstream media over there at Red State, but she did do some digging around on the back end, and she said, yeah, I think there's something wrong with Joe Biden. Not just what we can see clearly, but I think that there's a really serious medical issue. So we've learned that Joe Biden has, what is he at, stage 4? What's the highest stage? It's metastasized to his bones. He's going to die. He's going to die. I have so much to say about this, you guys. For one, he's going to die. And he's, 81? Why is he out on a media tour? Why is he out on a book tour? This is elder abuse. It absolutely is. Now, I don't feel sorry for him because that's the bed that he made. So he can lay in it and he can die in it. And he'll have to explain things to his maker when he meets him. And that's going to be soon. Hopefully Joe will get his soul right. But it does really drive. I know we've thrown around this term elder abuse. I think a lot of us sort of tongue in cheek, it is kind of cruel that you make him go out there. But at the same time, it's like, well, Joe kind of asked for it. And in his lucid moments, he is on board with all of this. He really, and he is a legacy guy. He's always been that guy. But this really does, now when you look at the idea that he is and has been clearly sick, very sick for a long time and getting treatments, by the way. We've had to be subject to years and years, even to this day, of the media demanding Trump take a physical or he's out of shape, and Joe Biden had cancer and the American people did not know that. That's very, very serious. It's very serious. That is elder abuse. I think there's arguments to be made for why you as a Democrat or you as Mrs. Biden would want him to remain in the Oval Office during or post diagnosis. I'm not saying any of those reasons are right, but at least I can make those make sense in my mind for people. I can see that side of it. But to be post presidency, to literally have months to live, and then to be dragging out his dying, his shriveling corpse to do what is ostensibly a book tour. Yeah, that is elder abuse. That is elder abuse. I also want to point out to everybody that Trump was right about this too. And he wasn't just right about it now. He was right about it in 2020 when he kept telling everybody he's not well. There's something wrong back in 2020. Now, even in 2020, when we looked at him, we were like, yeah, he's not well, but I covered his primary season. Matter of fact, Leo Terrell and I did the KABC. We did the main, what did they call it? The big night where they do all of the primaries, most of the primaries on one day. I was working with Leo Terrell at KABC Radio, and we covered that when Biden was making his comeback in the primary tour. And if you go back and look at that footage, you realize, like he actually, compared to what he is now, he sounds lucid. Now, back then, he didn't sound lucid, but comparatively speaking, even back then, Trump was saying something. It was easier to dismiss, at least by the legacy media. But he was saying not just this man is old. This man isn't just old. There's something wrong with him. So Trump was right again. So every time, I guess I want people to get that, because I know I'm starting to sound like a Trump stan, and that's not it at all. But I am developing a deep respect for what he does because I'm observing patterns. So I'm not just jumping on a cult train. I'm observing patterns, and everything that I thought was crazy coming out of his mouth has come true. So I think if Trump says tariffs are going to unleash the next golden age of America, I believe him. But he was not wrong about Joe Biden. I think at this point, we all agree that what happened had to happen that way. We wouldn't have gotten to the end of our rope had it happened any other way. It was a rough 4 years and a lot of sacrifice was made, but it had to happen that way. But even in 2020, Trump knew that Biden was not well, that he was not well. So I just have so many questions. It just brings up so much. So let's dig into this. My main point today, my main thought that I'm working through is why we cannot let this go and why the media and the Democrat Party has to be held accountable. And I'll tell you why I'm thinking about this, because Jake Tapper and the usual suspects in the legacy media, all of their books are coming out. I'm reading this one right now. Let me get this. I'm reading this one, Fight, by Amy Parnes and Jonathan Allen. Really good, sort of juicy. It's written more like tabloidy, so if you don't want to read the dry campaign analysis, it's like that. It's definitely written from a Kamala fan point of view, so take everything with a grain of salt, but there's some juicy stuff in here. But everyone's writing these books, right? And all of these books are they're absolving themselves of having not seen, having not known. And now all of a sudden Jake Tapper's out. There's a big cover up. People need to be held accountable. Is it a cover up if half of us knew the whole time? It's amazing to me that these people are giving each other, they're going to win Pulitzer Prizes. They're going to give each other Pulitzer Prizes over this. I want everyone to understand what's happening here. Look at what they're doing. This is, how do I say this? All right. This is the left-wing Democrat legacy media philosophy on the average American coming to fruition. All right. So for years, they lied to you and said they were on your side. They care. They just want to bring the news to the American people. We got wise to that en masse last year and went to the ballot box to punish them for it. But they're always telling you they're for you. Now this story quote breaks, and suddenly they're all, oh, we didn't know it was a cover up. How could the Democrats do this to us? We had no idea what happened. This is such a scandal. Meanwhile, me and you and half the country, we've known since at least 2020. We've known this whole time. We were accused of being Nazis, spreading cheap fakes, deep fakes. We were called all kinds of terrible things. Our accounts were censored. Some people lost social media accounts. We were out here saying it the whole time. Now look at Jake Tapper and all of, that sphere of media. Look at how they are framing this. This was a cover up and we're only just finding out. They don't believe you exist, right? They think that you are nothing. Quite literally, I guess. We have been out here for 4 years saying this, and they're acting like we didn't exist. They're acting like you didn't exist. That's because to them, you don't. That's because to them, you never did. We've been here. It's not a surprise. We've been saying it. And they're like, oh, we're just finding it out. No, you're not. Half the country has been screaming about it for 4 to 5 years now. But they are literally and without shame erasing, deleting half of this country, not to mention half of their colleagues. That's what they think of you. And then they wonder why their ratings are in the tank, why the Democrats lost, why their messaging isn't working. It's not just that they wish you didn't exist, because that's certainly a large portion of it. But for many of them, they don't even believe you exist at all. You're just some online figment. You're not that's why they could look into the camera with straight faces in November of 2024 and tell America, we don't understand why you're complaining about the economy. It's great. Look at this decimal point. They don't think you are real. To them, they are the only real people. Nothing happens unless it happens to them. There's a term for that. Narcissism. So it's incredible to me that now we're going to rewrite history, or they're going to try to rewrite history. And that's why I want to do this, dig through this today. We can't let them get away with it. And in the past, we would have. In the past, I think there would have been no other choice but to sort of drag your feet and move on. And in the conservative media sphere, sure, we'll talk about it. We'll spread the stories. We'll share the stories. They'll come up at our meetings. But as far as making a larger cultural impact, we would have to just settle for the idea that, yeah, they're going to memory hold this once again. But the tide has shifted, the vibe, as it were. I know we're all getting tired of that phrase, but I just think it's so descriptive because it's vague enough to encompass all of these things that are happening at the same time. Things are different now. And I don't think Americans are as keen to move on, not after 2020, not after COVID. Maybe if they hadn't come down so hard on us with COVID, it wouldn't have triggered all of those middle of the road Americans who just didn't want to be bothered with anything and were just voting sort of automatically Democrat because of preconceived ideas or notions. If you hadn't pushed so hard with COVID, they might still be getting away with it. But see, there is something to that cliche that people woke up. We really did. And in LA, when the fires hit in January, I wrote a piece. You may have seen it on my Substack. It's called Burning Away the Last of Our Fog. And I wrote it right, I think in day 3 or 4 of the fires. But I think it still applies more than ever to you. The California fire story may have moved out of your mainstream media feeds. But trust me, Californians have not moved on from this. We're still very much in the heat of it, forgive the pun, and pissed off about it. And when the LA fire, I talked about how I think that this is burning away that last of that haze of the California voter. That Californians regardless of the corruption, there's a lot of corruption in our vote too, so we're not getting a true vote. But also, California voters get a bad rap. Most people are voting because they think they're helping. That's the things they're voting for. They think they're voting for things that are helping. They're not. The California voter is a very caring and generous person. Really, generally speaking, truly. They do a lot. And I don't know where I was going with that point because, well, I'm 50. So let's move on to my checklist here. Today we're going to look at why it matters that we do not allow the Biden crime syndicate to get away with this or the mainstream media, and why I believe this season that we are in is not a season for mercy. I think this is a season for justice. Mercy can be a component of justice, but I think we will leave that to the Lord. I don't think we can have mercy in these situations. I think we need to go as far as we possibly can with holding people accountable for the last 4 years. Here's why it matters. All right, here's point number 1 that I made. If we don't understand what happened, we're likely doomed to repeat it. And I'm going to bet that's the point. Right? That's the whole point of memory holding history, memory holding. You know, I wrote, taking it back to my Substack, I wrote another article during the campaign. It was about JD Vance. It was really about Andrew Breitbart, the late great Andrew Breitbart, who is really the reason I'm sitting in this chair now, and probably the reason a lot of you view any conservative media, any media that is not mainstream media. You watch it because of a man named Andrew Breitbart. You might not know that. You might know the website, but the story behind the site is a man. And so anyway, we miss Andrew. Anyway, the story I wrote was about how Andrew really kicked off this era of new media with the Anthony Weiner case. And Anthony Weiner was the Clinton, he was the next Clinton protege. I don't know why. Weird. He's really mousy and strange, but he was married to Uma Abedin, who seems to be, I don't know. They marry her. I think that Uma is like some kind of gift or something that people pass around. I seem to notice. So she's got a lot of connections, and I think there's a reason for that. Anyways, as you know, she's married to Alex Soros now, but she was married to him, and he was was he a congressman? Yeah, he was a congressman. All right, he was a congressman. He was going to run for president or Senate, got caught sending text messages. Andrew Breitbart caught him. Campaign totaled. Well, at that time, there wasn't a lot of new media. And so he came roaring back. He went underground. He did the Clinton rehab machine. I mean, they owned the media at that time. He went underground and he came back. He came back to run for mayor of New York City. And they bought it. Democrats bought it. Everyone loves a good rehab story. Americans are very forgiving. He played the game, and they effectively memory hold his disastrous electoral past. And he was making great gains in New York City. He was on track to be the next mayor. And really, for as weird as he was and mousy as he was, he had a way with New Yorkers. People liked to see him around, and young people really liked him especially. He's really on his way. And then Andrew Breitbart came along and said, no, we're not going to forget about what kind of man this is. And then he dug up a whole new series of messages that eventually led to his downfall. That's Andrew Breitbart. That is the man who gave us new media. Back then, Anthony Weiner was able to take advantage of the old media landscape and memory hole his previous transgressions. He was able to do it. The second time around, he met a man named Andrew Breitbart, and the world of new media was just beginning. And so he was the first victim of it. In my estimation, Anthony Weiner is the first victim of new media investigative journalism. And so that is a case of why it's really important that you've got to dig out, you've got to hold people accountable, you've got to dig out the stuff when you see it, or else it's going to happen again. It's not just a cliche. I mean, it's a cliche for a reason. Those who do not learn from the past are doomed to repeat it. This is why the media works so hard to bury stories, why Democrats work so hard. Do we ever talk about how Democrats are the party of the KKK? We're never having these conversations. We don't learn about it in school. We don't talk about it on the street. We don't talk about it in our political events. They love to bring up whatever recent history of the Republican Party. We never talk about how the Democrat Party is a party of the KKK. They got to memory hold that. And so now they effectively, until this point, I believe it's changing, and I'm going to talk about that more later on this week. Uh, um, but they were able to effectively squash the story, squash half the story, effectively only tell a portion of it, effectively memory hole it, so that we could effectively repeat everything all over again. And in that respect, they get to recycle all of their ideas, their candidates, and just hope that for a new generation, it'll catch on. And sometimes that has worked. I do believe, they, of course, you've seen Democrat, now, to be fair, I wouldn't expect them to say anything else, but you've seen Democrat politician after politician on the media over the last few weeks going, we do, the Democrat Party does have some deep soul searching to do, but we need to move on. Americans are hurting. Americans are worried about the price of eggs. Suddenly they care about the price of eggs. Americans are worried about the price of eggs, tariffs, the border, deportations, Maryland father. And they keep telling us we need to move on. Yeah, they want us to move on. Of course they do, because they want us to forget so that they can do this again someday when we have properly forgotten. And that is why we can never forget. And as a matter of fact, that is why everything that's happening right now needs to be absolutely memorialized. I love what Trump master brander. I love how he effectively brands everything he does. Liberation Day to sign those tariffs. Mwah. Yes. It sounds stupid at first. Of course it does. Everything that Trump proposes sounds stupid at first. It always does, because it doesn't follow the stereotypical train of political thought. It always sounds crazy. The Riviera, the Gaza Riviera sounds crazy. And then suddenly every Middle Eastern country is coming to the table to participate. I don't know. A palace, a replica of Versailles in Florida sounds crazy, but he makes it worse, and he makes it work, excuse me. And now it is the epicenter of political engagement in North America, maybe even in the world. I just love how he brands everything. And so I think that it's going to be really important for us to brand this time, the way we brand the Dark Ages, the way we brand the Industrial Age, we brand the 60s. This time, I'm not clever enough to come up with the term. Maybe whoever names the generations can name this era. But we need to brand this era, and then we need to solidify that brand by prosecuting it. And by that, I mean prosecuting the era, prosecuting the errors, right? Digging out the corruption, finding out what really happened, holding the Biden family above all accountable, since they were the ones in charge, particularly Joe Biden. I'm going to go down this list for other reasons why we have to do stuff. But if we want, what happened to America, what happened to Americans from 2020 to January of 2025 was absolutely unforgivable and downright evil. And they were going to finish the job if we had lost. Trump is right. I know I keep saying this, but Trump is right when he said it wasn't me that they were trying to kill. It's not me that they're coming after. It's you. I'm just standing in the way. It's you. And he's right. It is you. It is me. That's why, Trump's the leader. He's a great leader, and I'm very grateful for him. But even he would say, and he would be right, he didn't win. We won. We got him there. We put him there. We fought. We won the war. Because we had said we'd had enough. So we won the battle. If we want to win the war, we need to brand this age. We need to solidify the accountability. And so, the Bidens have to be held accountable. All right. Second point. Attacks on Americans should never be tolerated, leave no one behind. Idan Alexander was the last living American hostage, released last week as I record this. And President Trump had promised that he would not leave Idan there. The Biden administration abandoned him and everybody else. And President Trump promised he would not leave him behind. And he didn't. And he got him home. And it, unfortunately, not every American made it home. But we are glad for Idan's return, as I'm sure his family is. But the point stands. I guess the point I'm trying to make is, no, we don't leave people behind. And under past Democrat administrations, Biden, Obama, I'll say Biden and Obama. I don't think I'll go back further, because my expertise don't extend much further than that. But they're both people who left Americans behind in war zones, at embassies, but even in our own country. In our own country. While they froze your bank account, kept your kid out of school, and deleted your social media accounts because you wouldn't get a vaccine or because you questioned the origin of COVID or the efficacy of the vaccine, they were allowing millions and millions of illegal immigrants, unvetted, unvaccinated, bringing who knows what. They were allowing them to flow over our borders, live in our streets, take up our community centers and our schools, attack, rape, and murder our young women, traffic our children. They tried to steal our vote. They brought us this mail-in ballot. We're going to have to tackle that too, guys. We can't accept that this is here to stay. It can't be. They tried to kill us. They did the best they could to make sure that you and I would never have a voice in this country again. They wanted us gone, and they almost did it. So if we want to make sure that our children and their children are going to be safe from this kind of insanity, yeah, people have to be held accountable now. And people have to continue to be held accountable. We're still prosecuting Nazis. We're still looking for them, still looking for traces of where they went. We should never stop prosecuting people who are alive for their culpability in the 2020 the 2020 disaster period, and then the Biden administration. Generally, accountability is a necessity, because otherwise we're leaving Americans behind. They left us behind. They left us for dead. They hoped that we would just roll over and die, or that someone would kill us. That's what they wanted. That's what they hoped. So no, we can't leave any American behind. That means that we've got to go get justice for the Americans that were hurt during that time and continue to suffer under the consequences of that administration. J6 prisoners, the fine example, but there are still people dealing with the fallout from COVID. Social media, even social media companies still dealing with that. Even Elon is saying, it's going to take years to dig out the algorithm and all the booby traps and everything that they put in there. It's going to take years. We can't decide that, okay, this is what we've always done and we can't do it this time. We can't. Okay, well, that was rough, but we won. Let's just move forward. I'm sorry, we cannot move forward until we close the door on the past. And the only way to close the door on the past is justice. All right, point number 3. This is bigger than Joe. And I think this is sort of matches point 2. This is bigger than Joe. This is about the future of America. This is about setting the tone, setting the culture of this country moving forward. That's why they had to go pay James Comey a visit. We know that James Comey, of course, knew 8647. Everyone knows what that means. He had to make some excuse. Of course he did, because he knew. The thing is, this isn't the Comey show, but I'm going to talk about this for a second. Comey's excuse for putting 8647, look what I found on my walk today in the seashells. His excuse was, I didn't know what that meant. I realize now that it's sometimes associated with violence. Because I do not support violence of any kind, I'm deleting it. All right, fair enough. How did James Comey know that he should delete that? He knew because he's a former freaking FBI director. And he knows that that's the kind of thing that the FBI pays visits for. So if he knew that's the kind of thing FBI pays visits for, then he surely knew that it wasn't a good thing to write. I think ultimately he wanted the visit because he's got a book coming out. But that's neither here nor there. The point is the visit had to be paid. It doesn't matter if Comey really isn't coordinating a mass assassination attempt against POTUS. It doesn't matter. The point is, this is the tone. It won't be tolerated. This is not who America is. We don't do this here. We don't do that here. This is why it matters that you arrest that pissy little, the pissy little gym teacher or the boomer grandma who gets caught keying a Tesla because they're mad. That's why you do arrest them and you charge them with terrorism. And yes, you let that grandmother face 15 to 20 years in prison for that under terrorism charges. It's unfortunate, but if you don't set the example, if you don't set the tone, we're right back here in 10 to 20 years. But we won't be here to fight the battle. Many of us will be gone. The people with the memories, the people who knew what to do, the people who saw the signs, we won't be here. And it will be our children and grandchildren who will be left to forge a new path. So no, this is bigger than Joe. This is about preparing America for what she is about to become. You guys, do you understand what's happening? I don't think you get it. I don't think you get it. We are in May. Things are moving at a pace that no one could have predicted. We are hurtling towards progress in a matter of months. Now, I want you to think about all the complaints, because I know a lot of you out there are mad at Trump for one reason or another. And I want you to think about all the complaints that just came to your mind when I said that. We're hurtling towards greatness. I want you to think about all the complaints you had. All right, now I want you to put that in context of it's May of year one. All right, so not to dismiss your concerns, I only bring that up to say that if we're at the point where the people who voted for Trump can already be complaining that he's not moving fast enough, then we really are in a sea change. And when I told you at the beginning of this episode, I said, believe Trump. Trump doesn't say things that he doesn't believe. And he's not frivolous about stuff. He really is not. He doesn't speak like that. And if he says we're about to hit a golden age, we are about to hit a golden age. But this won't just be a golden age of economics. He believes this. This is what I hear when I hear him. Some of you may just hear tariffs. Some of you may just hear border manufacturing. I hear world dominance. That's what I hear. With the America that once again will be the beacon on the hill, that will set the culture for the entire globe, for the entire planet. Everyone will want to be us again. If that ever stopped, we're going to be shifting this country in ways that are going to make some people really, really, really nervous. Have you noticed your churches are filling back up again? Oh, God won't be mocked. God won't be mocked. They tried to kick us out of church in COVID. They tried to they tried to separate us. Church attendance went to historic lows. Now look at it. Look at God. Why y'all want to mess with God? Do not mock God. He won't be mocked. So all of this stuff is changing. You're starting to see, we're going to talk about race this week. We're going to sit in the race train and we're going to marinate in it, because I want to talk about some of the shifts that are happening. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be on Jesse Lee Peterson's show next week in LA. And he is always very known for his controversial takes on race and Black behavior and accountability. So that should be really interesting. But I want to dig into it too, because some things are changing on that front too. Maybe you want to go back and listen to my Black Lives Matter era stuff so you can get refreshed. And it's also going to be fun to hear how I've evolved from there as well. And I want to see how you've evolved. But I do want to talk about how things are changing and how we need to adjust to that change and what it means for us as Black people. But furthermore, everyone, I don't know how to say this without sounding like a crazy person. The America I don't think it's an accident that Trump's slogan, Make America Great Again, has become a mantra, a global mantra, really, a branded mantra. Make glasses great again, make Coca-Cola great again, like whatever, name it. People are using it, right? I want you to understand how prescient it is, because not only is that a great brand, but it also brings up a great question from a lot of liberals who really want to use it to like poke when they talk about it. When was America great? Tell me when America was great. Well, I'm going to tell you when America was great, and you're going to be mad. It's not an accident that this is the phrase he used. America was great when the normal family was considered a mother and a father who are married and never divorced and were the only parents of the children living in their home. America was great when um, school included teaching children about scripture and patriotism. America was great when we rallied around our flag and kept our borders tight, when we welcomed people into our tribe, but not without demanding they assimilate to our superior culture. America was great when we established our Constitution and our Bill of Rights. America was great when women were women and men were men. America was great when most women stayed at home to raise their kids and worked in the home and made their family their business. America was great when men led their families, when men were teachers and instructors. America was great when we largely identified, when our national identity was a Christian identity. That's when America was great. So when President Trump says we're going to make America great again, what do you think it means? Yeah, some of y'all are not going to like it. I'm telling you, that's where we're going. The trad wife thing that is so weird, right? It just popped up and it's super fake. And there's some really disturbing trends. It's an influencer trend. It's just an influencer trend, everyone. It's just an influencer trend. But trends say something about who we are as a society and what we're lacking, what we're needing. And what the fake trad wife trend has said to us is that we are starving. We're starving for tradition. We're starving for it. So there's something innate in the American spirit that knows we need to return to that. So that means a lot of us are going to have to get a lot bolder about stuff out there. Like, we're going to talk about gay marriage. We're going to talk about gay marriage again. It's coming up. And I wouldn't be surprised if it gets reversed. And that's going to unleash a whole other slew of cultural battles and issues. And I don't think the left is on the right side. Forgive that turn of phrase. The left is on the right side. They always love to say, oh, well, don't you want to be on the right side of history? I don't think they're going to end up on the right side. And I think we're going to end up back in a place where we have a society that is so traditional that it feels a bit regressive. That's where I think we're going to be. I won't care because I'm going to be an old lady. I'm just going to be grandma. And I'm pretty conservative, so I think it'll all work for me. But I think a lot of y'all are going to be really mightily upset. But when President Trump says, make America great again, when we talk about being great, it's not just that our economy is going to be humming along. We are going to be spiritually a great nation. And that's going to mean that we're going to be a nation that's going to be a standard bearer for the culture of the Lord. Not to say that all the other like weirdness and grossness will disappear. It's not like this is heaven. It's just America. But I really do believe that. So I think you should gird your loins. We have not even started. You've already seen it. Look how hard the culture shifted in 24 hours. 24 hours after President Trump was inaugurated, we were out there calling each other retarded. Like, that's how quickly things happened. So not for nothing. This is a lot bigger than Joe. This is a complete and total global shift led by America. And if you ask me, led by the blessing of the Lord. I could be wrong about that, right? Reserving judgment, keeping an open mind. Next point. Who was running a country Who's been running the country? I don't think this is a crazy question to ask. Of course, we're asking it all the time in conservative media, but again, sort of tongue in cheek. Oh, who's running the country? Well, who was running the country? Who was running the country? No, guys. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. Listen to me. Listen to me. Who was running the country? Now, one version of that answer might be no one. No one. Right? And I think that was pretty, there's a lot of evidence for that. If you recall, I know a lot of us are trying to forget it, but if you recall, during the Biden administration, there were a lot of conflicting messages coming out of his cabinet. The Secretary of State would say one thing, and then Department of Defense say another, and it seemed like they never were really coordinated on, especially foreign policy stuff. That could be because no one was running the government; just every branch was sort of running itself. That's a distinct possibility, and I think there's a lot of evidence for that. But if someone was running the government, who was it? And what were their motives? Like it wasn't someone we elected. What does a person who is unelected to the most powerful office in the land, what do they do when they get that type of power? These are questions that have to be asked. If we have had, like, what if the answer is a foreign entity? What if the answer is the Ayatollah of Iran? I mean, I'm just pulling that name out of a hat, but what if that was the answer? That would be an act of war, and it would also invalidate everything that president did. Speaking of which, we need to know about the auto pen. This is where the third Trump term stuff comes in. I know a lot of people are like, see, he's a dictator. Like, the reason why that's even in play, and frankly, I'm not sure that he would want that. I don't know. We'll see how he's doing it. He's old, so we'll see how he's doing at the end of this 4 years. Maybe he would. He just seems to have boundless energy. I don't know how he does it. I think there's something a little bit supernatural about him, if you ask me. Anyways, he this is why he keeps bringing it up. If the 2020 election was invalid, then that election might need to be redone, right? And then if he's already serving a term to which he's been elected, he definitely has to serve this term. So it just seems like this might come as a surprise to you, but I'm not a constitutional scholar, but it just seems like there's probably some legal gymnastics that could be done to get him there. That's why he's always talking about it. But really the larger point he's making is that it could be that everything that Biden did was completely invalid, and that would invalidate everything. A lot of the stuff that they took from us, the things that they did to us, this means the government's into the American people for a lot of compensation. The businesses they crushed, some of the laws they enacted that brought these people over the border, that could be another tool for the administration to use to deport people and get around these activist judges. It's just, there's so much more than this. And we have to know who was it that signed all those things. Okay, so look at it this way. Let's just say that we do find, look, anything signed by AutoPen cannot be honored. It was illegal. And that's breaking, by the very definition of illegal, breaking the law. So that means people have to be prosecuted, right? Someone broke the law. Someone has to be prosecuted. So you imagine now that Joe Biden, how many executive orders did he sign his first week? 67 or something. I don't, like, Trump's just doing them left and right. But whatever. That means if he didn't really sign all of those, then none of it was law. Trump's executive orders still were in effect. And so effectively, the Democrat Party and the Biden administration were breaking the law for 4 years. And those are punishable offenses. Are you starting to see what's happening here? How big this is? I know everybody's been getting on Dan Bongino, but y'all leave Dan Bongino alone. Leave my friend alone. He is a good man. People getting on him and Cash's case because I guess they're not moving fast enough. They're not making enough arrests. They're coming. Trust me. You don't. You got to take that top crust off the government, the old government, and they're chiseling away at that. But man, oh man, what's underneath is going to be a swimming pool of corruption and the arrest. This is what I'm saying. The culture is about to shift. Imagine what it does to the American psyche if week after week, all we see are our politicians and old leaders that we elected being let out in handcuffs. That changes the American psyche, for better or for worse. I'm not going to make predictions, but I will say I do feel like we're headed to the golden age, to greatness. So I think can only be good at this juncture. Everything's subject to change, of course. All right, I've got 2 more points. We'll wrap it up here. All right. To revert, I think I already made this point. To reverse the disasters, we have to uproot the lies. So if we want to return, when make America great again, then we've got to point out the lies. We have to root. I saw JD Vance talking about Joe Biden's diagnosis today, and he said, "Of course, we wish him the best." What else do you say? And he said, this is not the time for this conversation, but at some point, we're going to have a conversation about whether or not Joe Biden was capable of executing the duties of his job when he was in the White House. And of course, I just think the only answer to that is no, and that's why they hid everything. And I don't think anyone should get off the hook for any of this, frankly. Republicans, if Mike Johnson, look, I think he's as adorable as the next politician. But if he wants to say, yeah, I knew there was a problem when I went and he didn't even know he had signed legislation. You didn't freaking say anything, Mike. You're the Speaker of the House, or you were on track. You didn't say anything. No, I mean, nobody gets off the hook. I'm sorry. They were Republican. Republicans knew. They knew too. It's not like the Democrats just covered it up. Everybody knew, and everybody kept that quiet instead of getting out there in front. Donald Trump was the only one out there in front. So no one should get away with this. No one on our side, everyone. No one on our own side should get away with this. Because if we want to keep winning, we need to make sure that the traitors are excised from our party properly. Or excised from our ideology. I'm not a party person per se, but ideology. All right, final point. Democrats need a time out. They really do. They really do. I have said it often on this show. And I'll say it again. I don't want the Democrat Party to disappear. I don't want the left wing of this country to disappear. I don't think that that's helpful. We need balance. I don't want no liberals. I just want fewer of them. We need balance. And again, I just told you, I think we're about to take a pretty marked rightward shift in this country. And while that's exciting, considering where we've been, that can get real ugly real quick too. Real quick. So I'm not pretending like, one side is just better than the other. There are better ideas, but there are no better people. And so we have to dig all this up. We have to hold people for real accountable. Not just like, we had a committee hearing on it. Like, people need to go to jail. People need to be publicly led out in handcuffs. It was right that they led that judge out in Wisconsin in handcuffs, even if nothing else happens to her. And they may very well offer her the professional courtesy, the professional privilege of moving on. Maybe she just gives up her license or just moving on. That'll be up to them. And there are valid reasons to do that. Sometimes you do that to keep the peace, but we should know. We should have that image of her being let out of her courtroom in handcuffs. We need to see people being held accountable. And then the Democrats need to, James Carville is right. They need to go away. They need to lay low for a while and regroup. Because right now, they don't know what the hell they're doing. They have sold out to an ideology that is unsustainable and cannot be replicated. It can't be replicated across time. Once the trending topics of this particular brand of Marxism, once those trending topics fade, you can't carry them forward. You're not going to be able to carry forward. They're trying, but you're not going to be able to carry forward and win the future on a message of this boy should be allowed to beat your daughter in volleyball. That's not a winning message. We've seen it globally. I mean, what's happening now is they're still running on the fumes, and they don't have it yet. They don't got it yet. They don't get it yet. And I think part of that's their programming. If I could use that analogy, I honestly, I think this is an ideology now. We've talked about it a lot on this show. It's not just about politics and winning so that your party has power. It's about ideology so that a certain ideology has power. And so they're totally committed to that. Totally. And it's programmed in. Now it is. My parents, the boomers, they were that first generation, I think, of programming, which they got older, and then the programming was delivered to them. But then they in turn programmed a bunch of subsequent generations. And so now it's really ingrained. I hate to use, I don't mean to sound tinfoil hatty, but it's just the only analogy that I can think to use, that we just have this army of robots now that are totally unthinking. And they have taken over the Democrat Party. And the only way the Democrat Party is going to return to any sense of normalcy is to get rid of those people. So they need to go underground. They need to figure out how to clean up that party. They need to be the losers. They've been winners for so long. Even though we've had Republican administrations, we have been living in a Democrat society for a long time. They've controlled the media. They've controlled the culture. I think that's deliberate. I thought my conspiracy theory TikTok delivered me a little clip yesterday about how the CIA was really involved in Hollywood, and maybe still is. And it made a lot of the blind gossip items I've seen over the years make way more sense. I love gossip, and I love the blind gossip. If you don't know what blind gossip is, look it up. And for years, and I'm talking like 30 years, like the 30 years I've been reading it, there's always items in the blind gossip about so-and-so's mother was a CIA asset. So-and-so's a CIA asset. And that Takashi 9 or whatever, that tattooed kid who got arrested in Miami a couple of years ago, he's a rapper. Is he? Or is he a CIA asset? No, he was working for the CIA. He was, his job was to be, most of them are informants. He was informing on drug trafficking. Anyways, all that to say that Democrats, I think, really have had a foothold in the culture and in politics. And this is why I believe Elon when he says that we're about to rip off the roof of the Truman Show. And I think the thing we're going to find out is we are not a 50-50 country, that the left is almost totally manufactured. They're very small. But they figured out how to be the loudest and how to lie to us to make it seem like they were in the majority. That's my prediction. We'll see. I think that's what the whole reveal is going to be. We're not a 50-50 country. I don't think we are. So I think the Democrats need a timeout. They need to be what the Republican Party has been for decades now, which is just professional losers. And they need to occupy that strata for a while. And then what's going to happen is Republicans are going to get cocky. Republicans are going to get out of line, and they're going to push things way too far. And it's going to be crazy. And then they'll be the losers. And so on and so forth. The circle goes round and round. This, my friends, is why we always must have one concept, one rock, one foundation to cling to. One thing that never changes, that is always the same, no matter what era it is, no matter what the trending topics of the day are, no matter what happens in your personal life or in the life of your nation. This is why we need one Father, one God, one King who never changes, always stays the same, always says the same things, and his love is not subject to the whims and fancies of modern man. And this is why no matter what's going on, no matter how crazy stuff gets and dire and dark, I always have joy and I always have hope, because my hope is not in man. It's not in Donald Trump. It's not in the White House or the halls of Congress. My hope is in Jesus Christ. It was the same yesterday, today, and forever. So no better place to end it than at church. Tell me what your thoughts are. JLTY at protonmail.com, JLTY at protonmail.com. Fair warning, graduations and then a big European vacation coming up. So the sporadic shows will continue. Oh my gosh, but then I'm an empty nester. And then I think I'm just going to be sitting on this mic talking to you guys all the time. You're my only friends. They're taking my children. You just spend all your life raising these kids to be independent adults, and then they go off and be independent adults. And it's like, how dare you? How dare you? I'm of course emotional, but I'm excited for both my children. My son's an adult now. He really is. He's a grown up, and his fate is his, and that is a scary thing to let your son. I mean, he doesn't have the boundaries of college anymore. To set your son loose into the world and be like, okay, I don't have anything else to teach you. I hope I got it all. To have this one job for all these years. Just the thing you are singularly dedicated to. There are a lot of people who will say, well, I can't believe, Kira, like after all of these years, like why isn't your podcast bigger? You don't have a big YouTube channel. You don't have, I do work. Like it's incredible that I work. I'm not famous. I don't have like a really heavy presence on the internet, but I always find work. I'm always getting invited places. And I'm really very grateful for that. And I believe that's a blessing from the Lord, but there are a lot of people who are like, you're not as big as the other people that you've come up with. And I mean, talent levels aside, maybe I'm just not as talented, and that's fair. But the other thing is that like, I really have been singularly dedicated to raising my family. That's been my job. That's been my career. This has been my outlet. You guys have been the people who have kept me sane enough to keep doing that other hard work. But my career has been motherhood. The job I have dedicated myself to has been motherhood. And I feel embarrassed saying that because I don't know how great a job I've done, but I was dedicated. And now it's coming to a close. All right, I'm rambling now because I'm emotional because it's the end of the year. But I will share. I'm going to do a Substack post with some of the activities that we're doing with my kids. And we're going to Portugal. So I'm going to do some posts there. But that'll be for the behind the paywall, just to keep the weird people out. So if you're not signed up for my Substack, go do that. JessicaKiraDavis.substack.com. Follow me on X at Real Kira Davis. And sign up for the YouTube channel if you're not subscribed. It's not fancy. I don't know what it is that you like when you watch YouTube, but there'll be stuff there to watch and listen to if you want to click it. So if you just hit subscribe, that helps too as well. I appreciate it. All right. Well, peace out, I guess, until we meet again. Every once in a while, just remember to stop and listen to yourself.
I pray the Lord my soul to take, that we won't lose faith and we won't lose faith. All we got is us, no one can take that away. So don't lose faith, it's gonna be okay. I pray the Lord my soul to take, that we won't lose faith and we won't lose faith. All we got is us, no one can take that away.